Okay, welcome everybody. So this is our TLC Methods course webinar, right? That would be the name, I think. And let me introduce myself. I'm Chip Huisman. I will talk a little bit more about myself later on, but let me first introduce my sparring partner for today, Sharon Klinkenberg, the one and only Sharon Klinkenberg, because he's like, yeah, he's awesome. That's the first thing I want to say. But he's also the TLC FMG co-director, and he also won the National Award of Teaching Innovator of the Year. That's from SURF, and he has a lot of experience with blended learning and education innovation over the last 10 years, and especially when it comes to methodology teaching. So he's an expert in the field, and that's why I am very, very happy that I can pick his brain the next coming hour on methods teaching, because I have to teach methods in the upcoming block, and I'm actually a little bit, nervous how I'm going to do that. So before we dive into the details of that course, Sharon, can you tell me what is your top one tip for people who need to do online teaching?
Yeah, Chip, thanks for having me first off, of course. And I'm looking forward to this next couple of that's to the next hour, and we can think about how to improve education and how to implement online teaching within the method and statistics education. So my first, I think the main tip is, and I think we as methodology teachers always do this, we let our students work, right? We always give them assignments to work on. And I think from an education digitalization perspective, I think my tip would be then to transfer those assignments that we have into the digital space. So, for example, when I first started out with teaching the course that I then taught was an SPSS course, I had a reader, a physical paper reader with all the assignments, and then we had floppy disks for students with the data files on them. And one of the first thing I did then is take these assignments, which were essentially just questions, items like you have on any test, and I put them in then Blackboard. So I created an assignment, just put them all in there with the data file, so I didn't have to worry about giving them floppy disks anymore. And one thing, because I always made errors in the physical paper version, so I had to redo the version every time. But because it was digital and in Blackboard, if I saw a typo, I could just change it. So that would be my advice for statistics courses.
Wow.
Off the bat.
Thank you. I am surprised that you've been teaching so long that you even used floppy disks. I mean, wow, that's like way back. The only thing that we now know as a floppy disk is when you are in like Word or in a Windows environment, then you save it with a floppy disk. That's the only thing. So
they were real.
Yeah, they were real. They were real physical things that you actually put something on. So thank you. So, let's start with the content of today. Let me start with a short sketch of my course, and I have some questions about that. So it's a methods course for second grade sociology or second year sociology students. It's on multiple regression analysis, so OLS, ordinary least squares regression analysis, and it's what they call it's in a four-week block. So the course itself is 3 weeks with 2 lectures each week, in total 6 lectures, and also 2 combined or connected seminar groups. So in the offline setting, I would give a classical lecture, and that would be followed up with a seminar group. And the idea is that, well, we assume that students have read the literature, and then they come to class, then I explain the literature, and they can ask questions. And after that, they get homework assignments, and those homework assignments are discussed in the seminar group. And also within the seminar group, there are extra assignments that students need to make on the spot. And this all works to 2 final assignments and a final exam. And
so
then,
this is kind of like tutorial group, right? Where they just come in, sit down with their laptop, and work on an assignment, which
so
is performing an analysis, interpreting some results, those kinds of things.
Yes. So it's there are like 3 main objectives, and most are what we call the higher learning objectives. So application and interpretation. So they have to we show them statistical analytical techniques, and we show them how they work, what the theory is behind them, and then they have to apply them themselves on real life, on real data. But in the during the tutorials or during the seminars, they indeed get a few definition questions, because we also want them to know what particular things mean. But also that mostly there's a lot of interpretation of tables and doing some calculations, and also running regression analysis on data using SPSS. So that's the content of the tutorials.
So may I ask why you would make a distinction between a homework assignment and then the tutorial?
That's a good question. So the idea is that they come prepared to class, that they already struggled, so to speak, with the content of the course. So and that they bump into things and they don't know. So this is the first learning moment, and then they come to class and they go, oh, that's how it works. And then there are some extra. So in the tutorials, we also have some assignments, and these are sort of more or less repetition, so that you layer it, or so to speak.
Okay.
That's the setup, and all of these assignments. So the homework assignments and the tutorial assignments, they are all actually one-on-one routes, so to speak, to the assignments and the exam. So it's very clear what the end terms are of the course, what students are expected to be able to do and know, and that's what we exercise with them.
And based on my example or my tip, so what is the format of those assignments at this point? So how do you deliver your assignments to the students?
Word files, PDF files. I think we put them as PDF files on, but also as Word files. So that's how we give them to them, and then they can fill them in themselves, or make these assignments themselves. So that's basically the idea. And during the tutorials, they get the answers on sheets. So stepwise, like these are the steps that you have to take if it's, for example, interpretation or some calculations that they have to do. And after the tutorial, they get the answer sheets. We post them on Canvas.
Right. So given my previous one tip, would this be an option for you?
To make it all online?
Yeah.
To make it, sure. I think in other courses I already do that. So you mean just post it on Canvas, right?
Yeah, and it's of course not just on Canvas. It's specifically in an assignment on Canvas, where you provide the question, the data file, maybe even a knowledge clip which explains what this analysis is.
Okay.
At that point in the assignment, and then you ask one question about the analysis that they had to perform, and then in the next question you follow up on that, and then you go stepwise from A to Z within these specific assignments, which would also mean that you could put the feedback also in the assignments. So when they finish up at the end of the week, for example, then you could provide the feedback through that route. instead of you having to post another PDF at the right moment.
Okay, so if to get this clear, right now they bring their homework, you know, and they have to. We're not going to assess their homework. They have to assess their own homework, right? So, but as I understand you now, so if you would put it online, then you could also have like a approach in which you would have like multiple choice answers or something. Or something.
Closed form answers. Well, if it's your goal to assess if they are able to perform a one-way ANOVA, for example, then the only thing that you would have to have if to determine if they performed it in the right way is just some arbitrary value. So you could ask them, what is the F value of the main effect or this main effect? Give me that F value. And if they then fill in that F value, then they have performed the analysis in a good way.
Yeah. So I think so. There are definitely some of the assignments that would be very suitable for that. Definitely. So yes, they have to calculate things, or they have to interpret things. And I think also with interpretation, you can ask them. So which of the coefficients in this table do you need to interpret to know whether it's significant or not, or whether it's a positive or a negative effect for variable y or x?
Or provide some examples of interpretations, and they have to choose the right one.
Okay, so because that's my main point. Some of these are open questions, right? So that's a little bit harder because I don't want to overwhelm my UDOs or teaching assistants. With,
sure. The open questions are always an issue because in most of the assessment applications or the quiz applications in Canvas, you don't have the ability to not assign points to a specific question. So it always has to be graded in one way or the other. So I've dealt with this problem in the past before, where we, for example, just at least have the tutors just mark it that was okay, and have the example text available to them, and added a line that it's not actually marked, but just
okay. Because what I do like is about this approach is that you can monitor where students are.
Exactly. And so what I've done in the past with these assignments also is provide how do you say that, a tag for the specific kinds of items. So of course you have items, especially within SPSS, where you, for example, these are items where you perform an analysis, or you have items where you interpret results, or you have items where you need to know which kind of test statistic you need for which experimental design. These are all types of items which can fit into a category, and that means that you don't have to, if you put all those tags in, which of course it's a lot of work but you only have to do it once, but if you have those tags in, then you could as a teacher see, well, how are they scoring on these tags? And,
okay. So, and that you can integrate that in Canvas. That's
so
possible.
I think the quiz is next. The next version of the quizzes that is available, so it's the advanced. They have the tagging options.
Okay, so because I'm going to be honest with you, it also needs to be done in a quite efficient way, in the sense that I don't have too much time, because what I know from you, well, you've been doing this for over 10 years, so this is you started with the physical thing, and now we are at Canvas, so you had a lot of time. I don't.
No, but the thing is, of course, that you can make choices on what is relevant at this point. Where do you have to invest? And especially if it's a course that will be here for the long run, it will mean that you can plan out the next steps in a couple of years. So so your first goal could be just get my items in there, make sure it works, and I have something for them. And then you may say, for next year I'll add the tags or something. So you could build upon that, because it's essentially a canvas which you can mend to your own. Well,
so this is an interesting question, because hopefully this pandemic will end at one point, and we can go back to online offline education, of course. But that doesn't mean that what my point is, um, the things that you are discussing right now are also very usable in a offline, uh, well, pre-corona or post-corona environment, so to speak.
Yeah, so my question to you earlier was why the distinction between homework and tutorial? And for me, it would be the homework is to have the students work on the
Yeah,
assignments and
I get it.
get their feet dirty,
Yeah.
um, and also making explicit to them that it's, for example, allowed to make mistakes within the assignments because they learn from them. But
Yeah.
then think really hard about what will you do when you get your students to sit down with a tutor? What is the purpose? Is this the purpose to rehash the same thing as they did, or could you use that time to determine what went wrong with the previous assignments and where do you need extra help or extra instructions? Or
I get it. So that's interesting. So what you're saying right now, if I get it correctly, the homework assignments are a way to assess how you can efficiently make time of your tutorial meetings.
Exactly. So essentially, it's a diagnostic instrument. So if they do it with effort, so, and this is an important one, because if you say that it's worth a couple of points that go towards the final grade, then every student will have everything answered correctly because they just share their answers with us. But if you say, well, it won't count toward the final grade, and it's important for you to put in the effort, because if we see where you struggle, then we can help you with it. Then it's a proper diagnostic instrument which you can use to firstly, of course, maybe to give you some direction for your own lectures. For example, you've discussed how to perform the multiple regression, and you're seeing in the assignment that students are getting a particular point wrong. Then you can, in the next lecture, spend some time on that topic. But it could also be a starting point for your tutors to.
Okay, so to recap, so the first one is use the assignments as a diagnostic tool to see where the students are. That's the first one. The second one, that you are saying, don't do it for a grade, because, well, that will lead to all kinds of fraudulent things, but frame it and make it very clear to students that it is a diagnostic tool that will help them get better at their obtaining their end terms in the course.
Exactly.
And third, it is also something that can help you feed back into your own lectures.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
And the last one is always a bit tricky because of the timing. So because the timing of when your tutorial is, when you have your they have to submit their final version, and you being able to get the information out of it. This is always a bit of a tricky part, but it is feasible.
Okay, but that so what you would do is so what is important that you have well, that's a little bit more easier now because for rostering you don't need rooms anymore. So there's more leverage, more wiggle room in the rostering. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And they don't have another course in the January week, so I can basically do whatever I want when it comes to the logistics of the course. So that's a good thing to know, because I do think that's where the what they say in Dutch. The pain is in the details. The devil
is always in the details.
Yeah. So okay. So but to go back to the point, I don't have a lot of time, and I don't want to invest a lot of time in details. You also say, okay, make choices about what is relevant right now, and just about the tagging. That's a tedious thing, but is it also something that you can do on the run? I mean, when you are constructing your course while you are already teaching, or is that something that you wouldn't recommend? Is it something that you say, okay, make sure that you have this finished half December.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the one restraint is that you have to have it finished before you make the assignment available to your students.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you
Okay.
can't change it. I think you can't change it.
No, I get that. I get, but
but the other thing is right. You have student assistants, right? For these,
yes.
so
well,
you can leverage then.
Yeah. I've teaching assistants, and we also have student assistants right now within the department. So there are some extra hands on deck. So I could use, and these students assistants, they are very chevy, even more chevier than I am with Canvas, and because sometimes it's
tech savvy student assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, for old people like me.
Well, we've done. We used student assistants in the past for creating these assignments. We set out the outline, asked them to do it, but make sure to also give them the credit in
of course.
But the role that you play as a teacher is essentially, you're essentially a reviewer. You tell them we need to create some assignments based on this topic, create the assignment, and in your case you already have the assignment lying around, so it's a copy and paste thing, and then they have and you review the process and say, well, it needs a bit of tweaking here and there, and then in the end you have your end product.
Okay, so that's interesting. Of course, you need to credit them for it, but it's also what is, I think, important when you are working with younger colleagues who are new, is that you give them ownership over the program that they
I even went as far with we created some knowledge clips for our for our education, and I asked them to first create a knowledge clip, but I also asked them to just publish it on your own YouTube channel, and then we'll embed your clip, but your name is on it. Okay. So it's really giving the ownership of the content that they created.
And then of course I stay and responsible. The final response. Yeah. So I do the reviewing. Aren't there any mistakes here? That not too big of mistakes, because we always make mistakes, and that's okay.
Of course. Even now I get a mail from a student, email from a student that says, well, this is not the right answer in this question, right? Oh, you're right, but it has been in there for 6 years. So yeah, you're right.
We all been there. We could have like a hour long of teacher bloopers, but that's a different topic. I mean, I think I can win a prize with that. I've got some great ones on my record, but I'm not going to discuss them.
I remember this time where I locked myself in the toilet and I was crying and banging my head against the door because I published the wrong final grades for the 3rd time. And
okay, one. Then I will tell you one, and then we will go back to the topic.
Yeah.
What happened to me once was that and thank God it was a small class with only 20 students. I accidentally left some of the answers in the exam. It happened. It was it was just only 2 questions, so I could manage. But it was like I felt so terrible. I was just like this young, unexperienced person, and you make that stupid mistake. Yeah. But I still live. I survive.
Of course.
So these are terrible things. Oh yeah, nightmares. Or the copy paste thing with grades. I think everybody went through that one. Oh man. Okay, so back to
on topic.
Back to on topic. So we have to make this also a little bit entertainable, all right? So on Canis clips, or on using Canis clips, what would you suggest? Because I know that you have a great YouTube channel with all types of things that you post. And there's also the Ictocultura thing going on. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how can I use that to the greatest effect in my course?
Yeah. So yeah, there are indeed a few YouTube channels that are of course, there's a lot of stuff out there which can be used, which is very useful. At the UvA, we have some YouTube channels that are mostly hosted on personal accounts. I think we have the Method and Statistics YouTube channel where there are a lot of videos.
Yeah, I'm planning to use that one for my lectures, because I know that
those are very high quality. And
yes, they are. They great.
Yeah. And they are properly tagged now since I think 1 month ago. There are proper tags in there as well. But the thing is well, my philosophy mostly is don't create something new. Just first see what's out there and you can use, and if that's not satisfactory, if it's not good enough, then you try and make it better on your own. So the way I think that well, what I've seen work is the integration of the knowledge clips within the assignments. So the absolute first time that I myself created knowledge clips, I think it was 2011, where I first made my knowledge clips on the performing analysis in SPSS. So those are very short videos. If you want to run, for example, a paired sample t-test, you're in SPSS, you go there, you go there, you go there, you run the SPSS command, and it stops there. It doesn't go into interpreting the results. It's just that thing is explained. Within the assignments where they need to perform that analysis, there is where I put in that video. And the first time I did that, it was within a grassroots project, and I wanted to assess the use of the videos because I wanted to know if it worked or not. So I got all the data, all the views out there, and wanted to analyze, but I couldn't analyze it. You know why? Because there was no variation in the results. They viewed every video from start to end. So there wasn't a grouping variable that you could apply to see if there were differences. Everybody used every video.
Yeah. So that's in itself a good thing, but you cannot see whether it was effective or not.
Exactly. But the thing is that what I've also seen happen is that the teachers try to put the videos somewhere else. So for example, they put a video in Canvas somewhere, and then they have an assignment somewhere else, and then it's not at the right time, at the right place, at the right time. And then you see a drop in that students, either don't watch the video or not at the right time, or they drop off at the early time. So having the connection, having the video at the point where they actually need it increases the viewing of the video. So that's a relevant point.
Well, that's fairly easy done right now with the Kaltura tool, right? In Canvas, you can plug it in anywhere where you want.
Essentially, you can do it with everything, of course.
Yeah,
because
you can also
YouTube provides embed codes, Kaltura provides embed codes, Vimeo provides everything provides embed codes, so you can just copy it and put it into the assignment, and then you have your video there. So that's the lovely thing about the web and HTML, that it all works together.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good to know. So I'm just thinking in the back of my mind how I'm gonna do this, because I do believe that I need to make some small knowledge clips, but what do I also get from this is less is more. Keep it short and simple. These are the really lessons. So make them as focused as possible, and a one-on-one connection to that topic.
So I mentioned this at some other talk, I think in the past before. Try to make Lego bricks. So it's the Lego approach to education, where in your knowledge clip, you don't mention the name of your course. You don't mention any references to previous lectures. It's a standalone clip, which means that if you have that, you can use it anywhere. Yeah. Because there's nothing in there that's not supposed to. So even with the title of the video, it's not relevant to call it lecture 1, blah, blah, blah. You just call it what it is, running a multiple regression in SPSS. You're done. That's
in
it.
5 steps, for example. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And if it's really important that you have order in your videos, then make a playlist and put the order in there. So,
okay, that's good to know. No, that's good to know.
The most important part is that you can, if you make Lego bricks, you can reuse it, and that's relevant for, well, not just this course, but if you're doing other courses and so forth.
Wow, Sharon, I have a lot of food for thought, and I'm definitely gonna look into this. For now, I don't have any more questions, because I think, this really helps, and it gives me a lot of ideas. So thank you for that.
And your lectures, because you were also thinking about doing lectures, right?
Yes. So I'm a little bit ambiguous about the online lecturing. So maybe you can help me out here. What I was planning to do is use those clips of methods and statistics by some of our colleagues, by Matthijs Rodijn and Annemarie, what's her last name? Yeah, because they are very high quality. But now I'm also a little bit, in doubt, because you say maybe. Well, I could use them to replace the lectures, so the offline lectures. That would be nice. But I'm also thinking maybe I should not use them at all, and only go for the small little clips within the assignments. But what would you recommend? What would be your approach to this?
So it's. I think you could do both, right? Where you have the assignments and you have the knowledge clips at the point where it's relevant. And the thing that, well, what I struggled with the starting my lecture series in September completely online was the notion about only providing knowledge clips for my students to view. Because, well, these are quite straining times, especially for students. And my thought was that, well, if I only give them knowledge clips, then you're missing the connection with the students. You're really saying, well, try to solve it on your own. And of course we have tutorials, but as the main lecturer, I felt it was a bit strange to go to that approach. So I think augmenting your online assignments where you have the integrated knowledge clips with something where you have interaction with your students, I think it's really helpful. And in my case, I decided to do live lectures. So I also, of course, I have the knowledge clips within the assignments, but the theoretical parts I still lecture on.
So just online via Zoom.
Yes, online via Zoom.
And
it's not really lecturing in the sense that I go through all the steps and tell them how it's done. I try to ask them questions on, do they fundamentally understand what is going on behind the scene, and try to elevate the knowledge that they are provided within the book. For in our case, we use Andy Fields, Discovering Statistics. So for example, if we're talking about the explained variance in a regression model, what is this explained variance? Can you point at it? So if we're talking about explaining variance, then we first have to think about what is variance, and then it's a deviation. It's defined as a deviation from the mean, and well, the sums of squares. Well, which squares are we summing then? And so I try to go with the lectures, go that route to try to visualize these kinds of things because they're conceptually hard to grasp. And it's conceptually, it's also hard to write down in a book, but it's feasible to make some visualizations on this and then interact with your students. so if I show you this graph and I have the explained part and the unexplained part, can you point to the unexplained variance here? Are you able to? And so I try to engage the students even online and I just sit there. So can anyone tell me where the explained variance is here? And then I shut my mouth and I'm quiet.
But I do need, so I know that you have very, very, what is it, advanced R skills. And I've seen some of your presentations, like these are little movie clips and which you can adjust things in a three-dimensional space. I know I'm also a little bit, well, I'm fairly acquainted to R, but that was like, wow, this is next level. So is there, because that's, well, I love to dive into that kind of stuff. That's not the problem, but you know, are there, so you, because the point is visualization is key here. And I agree with that. That's,
yeah, but it of course, it doesn't have to be interactive. The interactive part is the bonus on top.
Yeah,
so if you put if you put the visualization in a PowerPoint, you can do the same.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. Okay.
But
no, that's,
yeah. Going back to your previous point is, so the question is, how do you build in some time for you as the main lecturer of the course, because you're not the main lecturer of the course anymore if you don't lecture to them, right? So you just get to the background and then there's a course running and they don't see you. So
that would be nice. That would be
so for example, you could do a Q&A with your students. I always, at least the pre-corona time, I always found that the Q&A sessions weren't
invigorating.
Though they weren't visited by a lot of students. If they came, then only a few had a few questions, and then you ask, are there any more questions? And then it was quiet. So I was a bit worried for the online version of this to be the same. So that's why I opted for going for the live lectures. But what I thought of along the way is, because the short knowledge clips are clips that you can put in the assignments, right? But there are also knowledge clips which go into the more the theoretical understanding of some of these concepts.
Yes.
And what you could also do is an online live viewing of those videos, where you as a teacher can pause it and can ask students, do you understand what they're saying at this point? And do you grasp these notions? So you can ask them questions, maybe even do a poll in Zoom to ask it, so you can combine this. Because when you're only doing the Q&A, there's a lot of time between when they actually have seen the clip and if they have a question on it. And now you're right on task, because they're looking at the same video as you are, and then, well, the questions come up because they're like, well, he's talking about the unexplained variance. I don't understand. And then you say, well, actually.
Okay, so you could go for like a format. You first show this knowledge clip, and then after that you have the Q&A.
Or maybe even just do a Zoom session, a live session, where you show the knowledge clip.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. And then, no, of course, that's one package deal, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then
because there are different routes in this. You could say, first go and watch the video on your own, and then we'll do the Q&A afterwards. Or you could say, well, this is a session where you're required to be here, and then I'll show the video and we'll talk about it.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So then you more or less also force some focus. So to speak.
So for example, Annemarie has this video on the empirical cycle, and then I think it's the video where she talks about people in general hate their mother-in-laws, and then she operationalizes this with a question. Well, if everybody says that they hate their mother-in-laws, then or if there's only one that does not, then I have to refute my hypothesis.
Yeah.
So you could use that and ask your students, well, could you think of a better operationalization to refute her hypothesis? Is the way she's measuring this thing, can you think of other ways to measure this? And then you can have your students and the interaction that you actually want as a teacher, I think.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, so to recap that, make it one session, show the video clip, and then for yourself you can, to be safe, you have a couple of pointers that you definitely want to address. Well, they have to do with your end terms or with your learning objectives, so you make sure that these are connected. But you can also leave some, because I'm also thinking about the timing of such a session. You know, how long is it going to be? These knowledge clips are like 10 minutes max.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lecture for 2 hours because I know that's tedious, or well, it's exhausting for the teacher and for the student online.
I sit down for 2 hours with them.
You sit down for that. There's no problem there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but if you make it very engaging, then yeah, okay.
So, because this is what I thought in the beginning also. Just keep it short because they don't. It's hard to have the attention span. But what I actually am finding is that with a proper break, of course, but just as you have with a normal lecture, they can sit down and have the attention span. It's no problem. And I even ask them to the way they sit, right? Because if you can see the people sitting down on the couch, backward, lean back. So no, this is not what I want from you. I'm engaged. So if I teach, I sit like this, but I also want the same thing from you as a student to lean forward, to have your pen and paper ready to it's not like watching Netflix, because I tell them, because it's a trap, right? The online teaching is, you could conceive of it as being a consumer product, as like watching Netflix. And I tell them it's not Netflix, it's not consumerism. You have to actively engage. And even if I ask a question and someone else will answer it, if you're sitting down not thinking about your answer, then you're doing it wrong. So I'm really trying to focus on the behaviors that I want them to show. And that's even, well, the way that they sit behind. It doesn't work always, of course, but...
No, but I like this part because this is something that actually never gets discussed when we talk about online teaching. It's much about logistics. It's much about delivering the deliverance of the end terms, that kind of stuff. But it's not about what this is made. What can we call it? Etiquette, teaching. You just mentioned it, behavior, but it's much more about how to do the interaction online. So what do you expect from your? So this is a very interesting point. I never thought about that you really should pay some attention to.
But you already do so in a live lecture, right? If you see students sitting laid back and looking the other way, you say, well, hey, we're teaching here.
I always make the remark, so you know that they have their laptops open, and probably some of them are on Facebook, right? Or Insta, whatever they are nowadays. But I always make the remark, so it would be very unpolite if I was sitting here reading the newspaper, and that's what you're doing right now. So,
but I never throw it on the unpolite parts. I'm throwing it on the wasting your own time. If you go in here and do something else, you're wasting 2 hours.
Yes.
And you have to watch this the recordings of the lecture to get it back. So if you're here, use your time useful. Otherwise, don't come.
Yeah. So, no, definitely. That's So that's definitely something to point out. That's a good one. So I'm not sure under which header this is, but it's more etiquette. It's decent conduct. I don't know. Getting the most bang for your buck as a student. We need a header for this. This is an interesting topic, and I think it's very, very important because it's the thing that most of the time when you do offline teaching, it's implicitly already there.
Yeah.
and now you have to make these things explicit. That's what
And it's hard because you can't always see your students because,
no.
well, half of them have their video off, which I can imagine why they would do that. And I asked them to put it on if they have a question. And at some departments, I know they're required to turn on their video
Yeah,
as proper conduct. But well, I don't make an issue of it. But it's hard to you can't always see what's going on. So that means you need to proactively engage these topics because you know that it's going on. Students
yeah,
are because putting Zoom on their 80-inch TV, sitting down on the couch with us with some chips watching your lectures.
yeah, yeah. Well, if it's that entertaining, I didn't have pen and paper.
If statistics is that entertaining,
wow,
then,
then
okay,
then we're doing something good. I think.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. So okay. So that's on the. So that's interesting. So there's a couple of ideas here. So for how to go about. But what I'm getting from this is that the interaction and almost going back to more or less like quote unquote the classical lecture is not even that bad. I mean, there was this idea when we had to go online. Don't do it too long. Don't be on Zoom for long periods
Yeah.
of time because that's killing. But there's like I see that there's like a shift in that. Is that what I'm sensing here?
For me personally, yeah, because
Okay.
I really was in this belief that you shouldn't push it too long.
Mhm.
But from my experience, it's no issue. My lectures are all online. I have them in a YouTube playlist, which we can post here in the subscription in the comments somewhere.
Somewhere.
But
Yeah.
so you could watch it for yourself to
Okay.
see if the interaction works. And they're 2 hours long. And
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look at that. I don't think I'm gonna look at them for 2 hours, but I'm.
no, when I look at them, I put them on double speed, so it's only 1 hour, and then.
Oh yeah, yeah. I heard that one before. Yeah, so that's good to yeah to also tell your students because some people don't know that and they say, oh, it's so tedious. Oh yeah, but you can
Yeah.
go faster. So yes. Okay. So well, we discussed the. So you give us some tips for the tutorial groups or seminar groups. What the preferred term is, and we also discussed a little bit about the well, the lectures or how you can go about in online lecturing. So there was the combination of the existing Canvas clip with a sort of Q&A, but there's also the more, well, actually sort of open, well, traditional format of
Yeah.
the lecture there.
So I'm
And
also interested. So we've talked about this. What are the things where you think, well, these are feasible for me?
well, that's a good question. I definitely, that the problem is I get all excited, and then of course
Yeah.
I'm gonna invest way more hours than the university is paying me for this. But hey, that's life, and that happens when you do something you love. So whatever. But the two things that I'm gonna experiment with, well, three things that I want to experiment with. One is the combination of the Kenneth clips and a Q&A. I'm gonna look into that because I think that might be interesting. The second one is I'm gonna integrate, or I'm gonna think more about what the function is, a diagnostic function of the homework assignments and how to integrate that. And the third thing, and that's connected to that, how can I create some co-ownership with the teaching assistants that are
Yeah.
helping me with this course? So let them have a part of that because well they get hours for that,
Yeah.
not that many, but it's also good for TAs to be to wrap their head around the course, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know back in the day when I was a TA, I was good at statistics, but teaching statistics it's another ball game,
Yeah,
right? So
true.
you need to adjust. So to set it also up in to create a little learning curve in the co-ownership of
Yeah,
the TAs, that would be
that's a good
interesting.
idea.
So those are the three pointers that I'm taking away from this, and I'm gonna focus on now. So yeah,
cool.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here again. And now we're gonna go back. Thank you. No, thank you. No. What you don't see, but I constantly experiencing here. I've got two screens, and the one screen is really messed up. It goes off all the time. So then I'm sitting here and I'm talking to a black screen. That's not relevant, but it's just something that I'm struggling with right now. I'm looking at a black screen and pretending that I'm looking at an actual screen.
Yeah, I told you that I bought this mini teleprompter at the beginning of March, I think. I ordered it from China. It took way over 2 months to get here. And they 3D printed it on demand. And let's see if I can show you. So this is the teleprompter with my phone there. And the camera is behind the mirror. So you can always look straight into the camera. And this was like $15 or something.
Oh, that's where you use the teleprompter for. So just to not to have the teleprompting reading stuff.
No, it's just to be able to look your students straight in the eye when they are asking you a question.
While looking at the screen.
Exactly.
That's a good one, because I made my own teleprompter.
Yeah, you did. It's so cool. You DIY'd your teleprompter.
I did a DIY teleprompter. So
and so it's not about teleprompting. It's being able to when you talk with somebody online to look them straight in the eye. Because, well, if you're teaching like this, well, this is very important, people. Do you see that it's very important? But it's very hard. Because for me, it's also very hard. I'm not able to look into the camera, but. Well,
so that's another trick, because I made the teleprompter before, then I can look in the camera and read out loud what is in my notes. But I didn't make that next step, that I can also use it.
Put the Zoom screen underneath and then.
Thank you. That's another great tip. And if people see this webinar, or what we want to call it, I can give you some very short instructions.
The DIY teleprompter.
DIY less than €10 DIY teleprompter, how to make one. It's it's going to be the next webinar. Okay, I think well, we're done for today.
Yeah.
Thanks again. This is very clarifying, and a lot of useful tips, and I'm definitely gonna use them. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye. See ya.